Hello, class. How are you doing today? Well, today we have Blue 8.2, even numbers 6 through 22. Once again, we are graphing and we are solving today inequalities. We are solving them through the inverse operation of addition and subtraction of inequalities. Okay, so let's take a look. We're starting out with number 6. And so number 6 says y minus 3 is greater than or equal to 7. So we are going to isolate our y as we have been doing all year long. All right, by removing the 3, you're taking the inverse. Instead of subtracting 3, we are going to take the inverse and add 3 to both sides. And therefore y will be greater than or equal to 10 in this case. So from there, we are going to graph this inequality. And so we would draw our number line. We would put our 10 here. If we go to the right, it would be 11. If we go to the left, it would be 9. Okay? And so therefore, that should be adequate for us to graph. And we will start at 10. Okay? And it is greater than or equal to 10. So here's 10. Since it's equal to, we will include 10. And since it's greater than, then our graph line will go to the greater side of 10, okay? Moving forward, n plus 11 is less than or equal to 20. Instead of adding 11 to n, we're going to take the inverse and we're going to subtract 11, and therefore n will be less than or equal to, when we subtract 11 from 20, we're going to get 9. All right, from there, we're going to graph. We have our graph. We have 9 to the right, we'll be going up. To the left, we'll be going down. Okay? All right, and so therefore, we start at 9 equal to, it will include the 9, and then our line will go in a direction wherein it is less than 9, and so therefore, it will go in this direction. Okay? Next, we have 5 is less than v minus 1/2. Okay, so we take the inverse of 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. So 5 plus 1/2 is 5.5 is less than v. Okay, and so therefore we would graph 5.5. All right, let's go up 6.5. Let's go down 4.5. All right, and so therefore we're going to start at 5.5. It does not include 5.5, so our circle remains open, and then therefore our arrow needs to go in the direction where 5 is less than, okay, not greater than. Now, we notice here that our variable is on this side, okay, so it would, for our visual effect, it would behoove us to flip this so that the v is here, the greater symbol was here, and our 5.5 is here. Therefore, when we draw our arrow, we can have a visual confirmation that we are going in the right direction, okay? So then what ends up happening is we should be going in this direction where our 5.5 is the least number, the lesser number, okay? And so therefore, that's how that goes. So v, everything that is greater than 5.5, that's what we want, okay? Now, let's move on to number 12. Here, we have minus 1/3, so the inverse is add 1/3, add 1/3, and so negative 2/3 plus a positive 1/3 is going to leave us with a 1/3, which will be here, okay? Once again, we want to visually flip this around. So let's go here. G greater than or equal to 1/3. Okay? And then therefore, when we graph, we can have 0. We can have 1/3. We can have 2/3. We can have 3/3. Okay? And so since this is going to be, should be negative because it was a negative 2/3 and a positive, so this actually should be negative. So let's change this a bit. Doesn't change that fact. So let's do it this way. 0, negative 1/3, negative 2/3, negative 3/3, which is actually 1. Okay? So now let's take a look. Here we're at our 1/3. Okay? It includes it. And then therefore G should be greater than. So therefore we should be going in this direction so that our 1/3 is the least number. Okay? All right, there we go. All right, here we have K plus 9.8 tenths. So we're going to remove 9 8/10, and then therefore we're left with K. Okay, and so here we are. This is 12. This is 10. So this is 1.4. Okay, so now we want to flip this around so we can have a visual confirmation of K is greater than or equal to 1.4. All right, that's what we have. So here's our graph. Okay, and so therefore we're making sure that, yep, it is positive. So here we have 0, we have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. We can have 1.5, 1.6, and so on and so forth. All right, so we're going to start here. It includes 1.4, and we need to go in this direction. Okay, all right, here we have 0 is greater than S plus pi for number 16. And so therefore what we have here is that we want to isolate S. And so we know pi is 3.14. Okay. And so let's take a look here. We want to remove pi. And therefore we have a negative pi. And we have greater than S. Okay, so here we are, here. Okay, we want to visually flip this around. Okay, all right, so that we have 0. We can have negative pi on this side of the 0, and we can have positive pi on this side, right? And so therefore we're going to start at negative pi. It doesn't include it, so we leave it open. All right. And therefore our S is everything that is less than. Okay. So we're gonna go in this direction. Okay. All right. So in accordance with our equation here. All right. So now let's take a look up here. Up here, we have an error. The text tells us that there's an error where 5 is greater than or equal to x minus 5. All right. They added 5 to both sides. Okay. And therefore, we got 10 is greater than or equal to x. But when they graphed it, okay, and this is what I was referring to when I say you need to visually flip it. When they graphed, they started at 10, and then they graph in the direction of their inequality. Well, the problem with that is that in order for that to work, you need to be sure that your variable starts your number sentence, okay? So that you say your variable, your inequality, and then your value, all right? You cannot say your value, your inequality, and then your variable. You will not have a true statement in comparison to your graph. They will not line up. So then therefore what's happening is you have the opposite. Instead of 10 being greater than x, you have 10 here. It's not greater, it's actually the least. Okay, because as this arrow grows, x, okay, x is greater than 10, because 11 is greater than 10, 12 is greater. Any number on this side is going to be greater than 10, when 10 should be the greatest number, okay? So that's where the error is. So you flip it so that you can visually not make that mistake, and you will see that the arrow really needs to go in this direction because 10 is the greatest value, all right? Here, 10 is the least value, all right? So that's the problem there. Let's move here to number 20. The perimeter is less than 16. Let's see what the instructions are for number 20. The instructions read, write and solve an inequality that represents the value of x. All right, so we're going to look at perimeter first. We know that perimeter is plus all sides. That's the first thing we want to acknowledge. So if that be the case, then we have 4 feet here plus 4 feet here plus x here. All right, and that's going to give us our perimeter. Well, it tells us that our perimeter is less than 16. So P is less than 16. So if that be the case, then when we combine these two equations, we actually have, be sure you have enough space. We actually have 4 plus 4 plus x, so far so good, less than 16. The perimeter is less than 16. All right, and so then we solve from there. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus x is less than 16. We take the inverse of 8. X is less than 8. Okay, and so therefore that would solve this inequality and provide us with the value of x, and that's what they asked us to do. Hopefully you see that. Okay, all right, let's take a